Very quickly, as we start, we want to do something very quickly. Turn to the person seated next to you. Let's have the screen. Turn to the person seated next to you and tell them, successful people look like you. It's an honor. Successful people look like you. Come on, we want to transform this place into a place of success. Let's have our video. Flamingo as well. We are turning this place into a place of success. Excellent. Let's have our video here as we get the opening remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, to welcome us and to talk to us, please, a big round of applause all the way from Flamingo.
He is a passionate, high-performing leader with broad managerial experience in leading teams, strategy, finance, business development, innovation, and IT. He has been instrumental in the coordination and organization of the Financial Reporting Award, recognizing financial reporting excellence in Kenya and the East African region. He is the team leader of the 5th largest professional accountancy organization. Please welcome Institute of Certified Public Accountants of Kenya, Chief Executive Officer, CPA Edwin Makori.
Ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause.
Thank you, Mwakazi, and I hope you can hear me from White Sands Sarova.
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Thank you to our chief guest, the Deputy Chief Justice and the Deputy President of the Supreme Court of Kenya, Honorable Lady Justice Philomena Mwilu, the Deputy Governor, who is also joining us for the Central Bank, FCPA Sheila Bijiwe, the Chairman of the Institute, FCPA George Bokua, the Vice Chair, CPA Philip Kakai, ISPAC Council members who are present, guests who are expected from our sister institutes, the Chief Executive of the Institute of Human Resource Management, the branch leadership from our 9 branches countrywide, our SCPAs, the ISPAC Secretariat, fellow accountants, distinguished participants who've joined us physically and present here, and those who are joining us virtually, our speakers, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Just before I make my remarks, I just want to briefly allow the CEO of HRM, who has joined us, to also see how we manage our annual seminar, to just half a minute to be able to say jumble to us, and I'll allow Mwakazi from the other side to allow the Chief Executive for the Institute of Human Resource Management to say a word.
A big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, FCPA Makori. All protocols observed. Good morning. I am very excited to be here this morning, and I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate ISPAC for hosting such a successful event. I have joined the Institute about 17 months ago, and I've always loved how ISPAC coordinates themselves, not only on the events, but the different topics you discuss and how it impacts our country. And I'm very excited today that we're not only talking about position in Kenya, but we're talking about setting standards of sustainability economically, not only for Kenya, but for global practices. And congratulations to that. It means that now we've just gone beyond Kenya and setting standards globally that can be followed. And I have no doubt, as a professional body which coordinates the HR professionals and the accountants, we can go far with everything that we come together and discuss. And I would like to urge the delegates today and those in authority, whatever that is discussed today goes beyond this tent make use of social media, make use of your influences, and let's make the change that this country and the global needs in these difficult times that we're fighting different issues in terms of economic crisis and also global warming. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and let's appreciate this you, HRM. My first is just to be able to thank the Almighty for making it possible for us to be here and see this day. I think for us, for many of us who remember when COVID struck, we hardly recognized each other because we were in masks and almost lost the feeling of a good smile. So I'm just requesting that you look at your neighbor. Look at your neighbor and tell them these words. It's lovely to share these moments, and it's wonderful and exciting to attend this event. Thank you. I think you can always see each other's face. There is no mask. So I wish to extend a warm welcome to our chief guests, our distinguished guests, our delegates who are coming from far and wide, including our guests from our sister institutes. I know they'll be joining us. We have the challenges of flights, but they'll be joining us in the course of the seminar. And I all implore all of you to be able to feel at home in the city of Mombasa. We are deeply honored to be able to host you both physically and virtually. And those who are joining us around the world, surprisingly, we have our members joining us from all over the world to attend this particular event. So therefore, as we gather here for the 39th annual seminar, the second edition, a tough reality confronts the global economy and especially the developing world. A series of harsh events and unprecedented macroeconomic policies are combining to throw development into crisis. This has consequences for all of us due to the interlinked nature of the global economy and civilizations around the world. Of concern is the deterioration in development progress, which began well ahead of the COVID-19 pandemic. According to a World Bank report on poverty and shared prosperity, extreme poverty rose by roughly 70 million people when the pandemic hit. We are facing extremely challenging near-term outlook shaped by sharply higher food, fertilizer, and energy prices, rising interest rates and credit spreads, currency depreciation, and capital outflows. These shockwaves have hit development at a time when, as a country, and many developing countries are also struggling in other areas, which include governance and rule of law, debt sustainability, climate adaptation and mitigation, and limited physical budgets to counteract the severe reversals in the development from the COVID-19 pandemic, including health and education. The human consequence of these overlapping crises is catastrophic. The COVID-19 pandemic, which alone led to over 6 million deaths, geopolitical conflicts, and extreme weather events have hurt countries and people worldwide. This is bearing a brunt, especially on our developing countries. Evidence from a report that was issued by the World Bank in September 2022 this year shows that 70% of children in low and mid-income countries are in learning poverty, which is the share of children who are unable to read or understand a basic text by age 10. COVID pandemic worsened the global learning crisis and resulted in worse shock to education and learning in record history. Moreover, new challenges already loom in the form of demographic pressures, and the UN report on population projections reflects that by 2020, more than 1 to 4 in primary school age will be in sub-Saharan Africa, the region with the highest learning poverty. This therefore indicates that the education system are now further away from reaching the quality education for all. Droughts are taking a toll in the Horn of Africa and in South America, affecting food production and hydropower generation and throwing from our region, that is Ethiopia, Kenya, and Somalia alone, 9 million people into severe food insecurity. Developing countries are being hit by more frequent and more severe climate change-related disasters. Yet, due to Russia's invasion to Ukraine, there is a pressure on gas and fuel prices. If we look around the world, we remember that we have recent floods in Pakistan that left 1,500 people dead. Europe is confronting the sudden spike in energy prices caused by Russia's invasion of Ukraine and market rigidities. The weakness of the euro and high inflation increase the likelihood of a European recession and further a constraint in the Eurozone's longer-term growth outlook. A pressing danger for the developing world is a sharp slowdown in the global growth, which depends into a global recession that is imminent and foreseen to be able to take place in the year 2023. The US has experienced contraction in the GDP in the first 2 quarters of 2022, and the sharp decline in asset prices worldwide has consequences for weakened corporates and pension balance sheets and could dampen new investments. Ladies and gentlemen, on reflection of it is evident that with recent developments in the world, business can no longer prefer short-term wins over following a sustainable strategy. With this in mind, this year's seminar focuses on the role of the accountancy profession in creating sustainable business practices globally. Sustainable business practices illustrate how businesses can thrive and grow while simultaneously solving some of the world's biggest challenges, and how professionals and particular accountants, as part of the professionals, can make a difference. Sustainability is often confused with the term growing green. Broadly speaking, however, the capacity for continuance into the long term is about more than the environment. Making no mistake, the environment should be a paramount concern to all of us, for the simple reason that every business, resources come from it. That being said, focusing only on the environment aspect of sustainability is both short-sighted and partial, not unlike claiming that good health is solely about vegetables. It is therefore important to note that sustainability embraces legal, economic, financial, industrial, social, and behavioral arenas, as well as the environment. From a business viewpoint, it can be argued that sustainability is about reducing expenses, including future expenses, in every conceivable form to facilitate longevity and competitiveness. To understand sustainability, it is essential to begin by first comprehending the big picture. That is to acknowledge that sustainability is about longevity and to develop an awareness of what that encompasses before analytic thought does its reductive work. Rather than building up from particulars to generals, one must be able to begin from the generals in a place, intuitive wisdom of the logic behind long-term balance, proportion, and profit, what it entails, and why it is important. If businesses want to thrive, they need to adapt their strategies towards long-term success in financial and non-financial terms. They need to identify where they create or destroy value and adapt their strategies accordingly. Accountants can support the company with improving business processes and ensure companies take a long-term view of the business choices that they make. This includes evaluating or auditing processes and ensuring that companies avoid the short-term views. And therefore, I'm hoping that with the speakers that we'll have for the next 4 days, we'll be able to look at how to be able to create sustainable businesses. As I conclude, ladies and gentlemen, let me just reflect on a day that is also going to be important for us. That is the 10th of November. It's a very special day to all of us accountants. This is the International Accounting Day, a day where we get an opportunity to be able to acknowledge the great work accountants do to make businesses thrive, support the economy, and help people navigate the complexities of finance. It will also be a time to reflect on our individual contribution to making this professional more respectable. So as we be coming to the day, which is on a Thursday this week, let us remember and cherish our profession, being our International Accounting Day. I wish to reiterate the words of Howard Zinn, an historian, philosopher, and playwright, who said, "We don't have to engage in grand and heroic actions to participate in change. Small acts, when multiplied by millions of people, can transform the world. It is our turn to perform small acts of change and exercise the multiplicity of our numbers to increase our voices in mainstream sustainability." Ladies and gentlemen, as I conclude, let me once again thank our distinguished speakers for giving their time and willingness to give their insights. I look forward to 4 days of active engagement and learning. It is now my great pleasure and honor to invite the chair of the Institute, SCPA George Bokua, to give his official address.
He has experience spanning over 20 years as a practitioner. He has served ISPAC and the accountancy profession at large for a continuous period of over 15 years in various capacities, and notably steered the Institute out of the challenges caused by COVID-19. He has championed the adoption of technology towards realizing institutional transformation. Please welcome ISPAC Council Chairman FCPA George Mokua.
Mokazi, you can hear us?
Thank you so much, our CEO, CPA Edwin Makori, our chief guest, the Deputy Chief Justice and the Deputy President of the Supreme Court of Kenya, Honorable Lady Justice Philomena Mwilu, the Deputy Governor of the Central Bank of Kenya, FCPA Sheila Mbijiwe, the Vice Chairman of the Institute, CPA Philip Kakai. My council colleagues are present. Our CEO, the CEO of IHRM, Kuresha, FCPA's past chairmen who are here, FCPA Julius Mwatu, I can see you, the 22nd president of ISPAC, the chairman of the host branch, CPA Dalton Mwagogo, and the branch leaders present here, my fellow accountants, distinguished participants, speakers, and all guests whom I may have not mentioned their names. I can see the vice chair of our work, CPA Grace Induta. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Good morning once again. Indeed, I'm very happy to be here and preside over our 39th annual seminar. Let me begin my remarks by recognizing once again a special set of groups that are here with us this morning. Firstly, allow me to truly express my gratitude to you, our chief guest, Deputy Chief Justice and the Deputy President of the Supreme Court of Kenya, Honorable Lady Justice Philomena Mwilu, for accepting our invitation and finding time out of your busy schedule to grace our annual seminar today. Your presence makes the event even more joyful and memorable. We sincerely thank you so much. And really, on behalf of my council, this is the second time that she has graciously accepted to join us. I know we were together again sometimes last year. We really appreciate it, and thank you so much for taking time. I also wish to thank the Deputy Governor of Central Bank of Kenya, FCPA Sheila Mbijiwe, for equally gracing the annual seminar amidst your busy schedule. Thank you for honoring your profession and accepting our invitation to speak to the delegates later on in the course of this week. Ladies and gentlemen, I also wish to thank each one of you for being here with us today, and we don't take this for granted. We are very pleased indeed to welcome you, and more especially for those of you who have been with us for a very long time. I know there are very many senior members of the Institute who have religiously attended this annual event, and I really want to thank you in a very special way. And of course, equally, those of you who are new to this annual seminar family. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the largest conference in terms of numbers and convergence of accountants in the East Africa region, and it is the forum to ask the right questions. It's also the forum to seek clarity and forge a way forward for the profession. And so, you have never been in the right place like you are here today. I wish to thank our speakers and the resource persons for accepting to bring on board their expertise and experience, which will be needed for this seminar, so that we can engage fruitfully, constructively, and exchange in an open manner throughout the 5 days that we'll be spending together. And in addition, I also wish to thank our sponsors and organizations who have partnered with us to make this event a worthwhile event. You have done us proud. Finally, it's to say thank you to all our staff led by our CEO, CPA Edwin Makori, for working very hard and seeing that this conference is indeed a success. Allow me, ladies and gentlemen, in the same spirit, to appreciate my council colleagues for their dedication and visionary leadership. And if you may allow me, let me request them to stand up, and I do a very quick introduction. Let me start from my far right, the other side. That's FCPA Dr. Nicholas Leting, the Chief Executive of CASNEP and also Council Member at ISPAC. Let's appreciate. Thank you so much, FCPA. Next to him is FCPA Esbon Omolo, elected council member. Thank you, FCPA. Thank you so much. Let's also appreciate him. Next to FCPA Esbon is FCPA Georgina Malombe, who is also an elected council member. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for taking time. On my right is CPA Anne Wangeshi. She's the longest serving council member. Let's appreciate CPA Anne Wangeshi. Thank you, we appreciate. Next to CPA Anne Wangeshi, you may sit, CPA Anne, is CPA Rispa Olik, re-elected this year and opposed. Let's appreciate her for that achievement. Joining us from Flamingo is CPA Professor Elizabeth Kalunda. She's there. Let's give her a big hand. Also elected and opposed this year. We have, before I introduce the deputy, we have CPA John Awala, representing the CS National Treasury. He will be joining us in the course of the week. Let's appreciate him. We also have CPA Matthew Mukisu, who's representing the Capital Markets Authority. Let's appreciate him. And of course, our Secretary to the Council, none other than CPA Edwin Makori. You have already seen him. Let's appreciate. And of course, lastly, very last, is the Vice Chair, CPA Philip Kakai. Thank you so much, CPA Philip. You may sit. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me also in a very special way, to recognize the presence of past chairmen. If you are here, may I request you to stand up. Thank you so much. That's the 22nd president of ISPAC, FCPA Julius Mwilu. Sorry, Julius Mwatu. Sorry, this name is, sorry, apologies, Lady Justice. But anyway, you come from the same place, so there's no problem. FCPA Julius Mwatu, thank you, we appreciate. That's the 22nd president of ISPAC. We're just seeking amendments so that the name can be changed from chairman, Lady Chief Justice, to president. I was hoping that I was going to be the first one to be named the president, but unfortunately, the clock seems to be ticking very fast. I may not be a beneficiary of that name, but I'll graciously hand over to the next leadership. Thank you. Let's also recognize the presence of representatives from the East African Professional Accountants Organizations who are here. We have disruptions in terms of the flights because of the ongoing strike, but we are expecting to have a delegation from the POs within the region. That's Burundi, Uganda, Rwanda, Tanzania, and I think that's it, and Uganda, and Somalia also. I don't know if they've been able to come. Anybody from any of those POs within the region? We are expecting them, but I'm told that there are disruptions with the travel, but we hope they'll be able to make it. So, ladies and gentlemen, allow me now to make my remarks, and today marks the second edition of the 39th annual seminar under the auspices of our prestigious institute, which you members have built for yourselves over the years. I really want you to give a big clap for yourselves for what you've built over the years. And I tip my hat off for you. We are proud to host you here today, and for this entire week here at Sarova, White Sands, Pride Inn Flamingo, and of course, virtually via Zoom for our online attendees. Ladies and gentlemen and fellow accountants, the world stops for no one. The role of accountants and professionals at large, of course, is not exempt from change. This seminar, therefore, provides an opportunity for us to talk about these changes as well as current issues in financial reporting, and also to look into the future together and explore the changing roles of accountants in a rapidly changing business environment paved with diversity. To guide our discussions this week, our discourse will be hinged on the theme, the role of the accountants profession in creating sustainable business practices globally, for which I'll also try to center my brief opening remarks today. The mission of ISPAC, ladies and gentlemen, is to develop and promote internationally recognized accountancy profession that upholds public interests through effective regulation, research, and innovation, hence why retooling and reskilling is not just important to us, but also part of our lifeline. It is Albert Einstein who once said, once you stop learning, you start dying. Simply put, why do we have to come and attend all these seminars? That's a question. It is simply because we are afraid of dying as a profession. Our discussions are designed to meet the financial information needs of investors and other market participants to support economic decisions. This focus on financially relevant information for investors, governments, and the private sector is embedded in our DNA and is front of our mind when we develop our topics for any conference that we hold. So, ladies and gentlemen, before I make my remarks on the theme, permit me also to take care of a few preliminaries. You, as the chaperones of the Institute, we are deeply humbled by the privilege to allow us in this season to navigate the ship in these murky waters posed by the healthy upheaval of COVID-19. Despite the catastrophic effects that almost brought us to our knees, I'm very happy to report that we have turned out to be one of the most resilient professional bodies. And this is really thanks to you, all our members. Through this tightrope situation that we have walked for 2 years, I'm happy to inform you that we'll be soon retiring the CPA Center loan so that much more resources can now be rechanneled to focus on our core mandate, which is regulation of the accounting profession to the letter. I really need you to clap for yourselves and really appreciate the council and the management team. And yesterday, I'm happy to report to you that we had a council meeting and we resolved that we are going to retire the entire debt before the end of this year. And it's indeed a milestone, and it's a demonstration that if accountants are given the responsibility to take care of the resources of this country, and no matter how much you borrow, will pay on time. Isn't it? Maybe perhaps to give you further insights, we are retiring the debt about 7 years ahead of schedule. Also, by retiring the debt 7 years ahead of schedule, we shall have saved approximately 110 million shillings in finance costs. And I'm really very humbled and happy for that. And soon, the CPA Center shall be free of any encumbrances. And we could not have made it possible if it was not for you, including you who is attending this conference here today. Thank you so much for the support that you have given us. I must also say that our efforts to address the inequalities and challenges bedeviling our members in the execution of their mandate is what we live by, and we are not willing to let it go. We are so far in the process of ensuring that we provide protection to all our members who are willing to unearth corruption scandals and privilege in the use of public resources. Having said this, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to address myself to the theme of this conference very briefly. Interest in sustainability and its implications for business has increased steadily since the issue first became topical 2 decades ago. It is increasingly recognized that sustainability not only poses ethical issues, but also has direct implications on economic performance. The development of the regulatory framework of markets, technical and organizational innovations, and new societal and consumer perceptions have changed the business context and the determinants of corporate success. This has implications for the professions that support business, and sustainability management has generated demands for new information and for adaptations of conventional accounting to support this. There has been substantial research on a range of issues of sustainability accounting, but less is understood of actual practices within companies and how these are developing over time. Answers are needed to questions like, what is understood by sustainability accounting in business practice? How is sustainability accounting carried out? Who within companies uses the information which is generated, and for what purposes? And what expectations are there of future developments? This seminar, ladies and gentlemen, provides an opportunity to examine the processes involved in generating business information as distinct from the outputs that these processes generate. It will also throw some light on how some leading companies are dealing with the additional information, needs required to manage the increasingly topical issues of sustainability. At ISPAC, we believe that accountancy is a cornerstone profession of society and is vital to helping economies, organizations, and individuals grow and prosper. Corruption, poverty, inequality, and climate change are among a few of the world's most pressing challenges, which can often appear insurmountable. And against this backdrop, ladies and gentlemen, public trust in government and business is waning. Government entities are increasingly distrusted, and citizens are demanding with more vigor than ever before that CEOs lead on issues of change that will advance society at large. Given this backdrop, there is a great opportunity to make consistent strides when businesses, government, and society come together with a coordinated global effort to achieve progress. Representing almost 3 million professional accountants around the world, the International Federation of Accountants, IFAC, and we members of ISPAC, among other membership bodies like ACCA, can help make a strong force with the opportunity and obligation to keep business and government on track to support and progress nearly half of the SDGs. In fact, ladies and gentlemen, 8 of the 17 goals are directly supported by the work of accountants. Gender equality, quality education, economic growth, climate action, and peace, justice, and strong institutions are among the key SDGs that accountants work towards every day in their varying roles. To achieve sustainable business practices, we accountants must work together. Cross-sector collaboration is critical to secure the support and the resources needed to achieve this commonality. We must understand, therefore, that the accounting profession has a unique mandate to hold government and businesses responsible and accountable. With a strong accounting profession, we can help drive the changes needed to transform this globe for better in the coming areas. Allow me, ladies and gentlemen, to touch briefly on promoting economic growth and decent work for all. Economic growth has a huge impact on the lives of citizens across the country, and the global accountants profession is a driver of economic growth and stability. Economic growth and decent work for all is a must focus for accountants. I urge you, my colleagues, professionals, to deploy your professional skills to encourage leaders to direct their organizations towards achieving sustainable economic, social, and environmental performance. In addition, accountants have an opportunity to contribute to greater prosperity and improved living standards more broadly. The profession's impact on better information, reporting, measurement, and decision-making is associated with improved living standards, well-being, and prosperity around the globe. On advancing climate action, we all know, ladies and gentlemen, the impact of climate change in our country, and I cannot overemphasize, and you are all aware that the COP27 is currently underway in Egypt, and therefore we have seen massive losses that occurred to farmers for both crops and livestock. The displeasing scenes of dead animals and distressing wailing of people dying from hunger reminded me that we only need to focus on numbers. But also on climate change. As the government gears its efforts to address this catastrophe, it is evident that the profession can do more to support both national and county governments and global organizations implementing plans for climate change. For instance, auditors play a major role in holding governments accountable for performance, including progress toward climate goals and targets. Using integrated reporting to better understand climate change risk, accountants can help organizations align their business goals and objectives with preparing for climate change. On keeping the peace and justice, ladies and gentlemen, peace and justice underpin all the SDGs. Transparent governments and corporations, as well as justice systems, are the building blocks of a safe and fair society. Our national and grassroots fraud and corruption threaten this SDG, preventing business growth, deterring public and foreign investment, and thwarting resources. The profession's capacity to address limitations to sustainable growth directly affects drivers of economic development. In particular, the profession addresses head-on poor governance, fraud and corruption, poor public sector financial management, and inadequate accounting and auditing practices. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, to achieve our mandate, considering our overarching theme, we professionals must work together. We must begin to appreciate that our role has metamorphosized into being more strategic advisors than just being counters. We must therefore rise to the occasion. I call upon you, my colleagues, to stand in the gap and create sustainable business practices in your organizations with the knowledge that you will be empowered during this conference. I pray that each one of us will not only attend this conference as a requirement, but also as a commitment to bringing change. Use this time here also to ensure that you network. Portfolios comes closer to you as your net worth, so that should you be called upon to declare your networks, you'll also have a good number to stand by you. Ladies and gentlemen, as I come to the end, I may have skipped some of our key stakeholders. Allow me to recognize the presence of the CEO of the Public Sector Accounting Standards Board, who is also a former staff at ISPAC, FCPA, Frederick Riaga. Riaga, you can wave. Thank you so much for being here with us. We appreciate. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, it's not just the conference, but we have, in the same spirit, organized a charity golf tournament on Friday at Nyali Golf and Country Club. And this is as part of our CSR and giving back to society. The funds raised shall go towards supporting bright and disadvantaged students. We already have the first and second cohorts of beneficiaries, and the funds that we are raising now shall go towards supporting our third cohort of students. I urge you to spare some few coins to support a needy child. And I want to say special thanks to our sponsors for this charity golf tournament. That's EABL, Grand Thornton, PKF, and the Consa Technopolis. Let's appreciate them for supporting us. And I want to confirm to you that I'll be playing, and I'll be teeing off at 6:00 a.m. on Friday morning. I'm not a very good golfer. My handicap, for those of you who understand, I hope Lady Justice, you also play golf. If you get time, you can join us. I'm still working on my handicap, but I hit shots, and I always remain on the fairway. With that, I want to thank you most sincerely for listening to me, and it's now my singular honor to invite our chief guest, the Deputy Chief Justice and the Deputy President of the Supreme Court of Kenya, Honorable Lady Justice Philomena Mwilu, to give our official address and to officially declare this, that 9th Annual Seminar Edition 2 open. Kindly karibu, and the introduction will be streamed as she prepares herself. Thank you so much for listening to me.
37 years of experience in the legal profession. She has served in the High Court in various divisions and stations and as the Judiciary Ombudsman. She continues to actively participate in church activities and events, as well as actively mentoring girls and boys in schools across Kenya. Please welcome Deputy Chief Justice and Vice President of the Supreme Court of Kenya, Honorable Lady Justice Philomena Mwilu.
I request all of you to be upstanding as she makes her way. Thank you so much.
Asanteni sana, please take your seats. FCPA George Mokua, the Chair of ISPAC Council, please allow me to inherit the protocols already established and proceed to talk to us briefly about the topic that I was given. And so, good morning to all of us and hearty greetings from all of us at the Judiciary of Kenya. Let me say, as I did to the chair earlier this morning, that I feel like I was already a member of ISPAC. Maybe my standards are low, but I have been here 3 times now, and for me, that is many enough times to make me feel like I belong. I am elated to join us this morning, and I thank those who decided that I should be the person to talk to us this year about a topic that we will shortly tackle. I come to emphasize the critical role of the profession and the Institute in strengthening the administration of justice in Kenya, the rule of law, and our constitutional democracy. Accountants and lawyers are both in the same business, the business of accountability. The latter in ensuring the fidelity to the Constitution and statutory provisions. The former in ensuring adherence to generally accepted accounting principles such as consistency, sincerity, and utmost good faith. It is thus apposite that both ISPAC and the judiciary of Kenya recognize the importance of such multidisciplinary engagement such as today. Platforms such as these allow for cross-pollination of ideas and practices that will strengthen our respective mandates. I've already said that you and we are in the business of accountability. ISPAC invited me to speak on the topic, what the role of professionals in facilitating the justice system globally. Allow me to briefly unpack the topic and outline the structure of my presentation today. Being a gathering of accounting and accountancy professionals, it's only proper that I limit myself to accountants. I will also limit my reflections to municipal considerations, but would posit that their applicability and usefulness could also extend to other jurisdictions, as well as regional and international configurations. Further, I will consider both the intrinsic and extrinsic roles of accountants vis-a-vis the justice system, as well as the aspect of accountants at both an individual capacity and at a corporate sense, as represented through organizations such as ISPAC. Section 2 of the Accountants Act, which I'm sure you're familiar with, describes accountancy as, quote, practice in accounting, financial reporting, control systems, systems auditing, assurance, forensic accounting, and auditing. Finance, financial management, public finance management, taxation, financial risk management, management, accounting, and advisory services related thereto. Close quote. Along with this range of activities, its members also work in diverse sectors of the economy as inter alia accountants, financial experts, auditors, and financial consultants. This expansive mandate highlights the important cross-cutting role that accountants play in the management and operations of all justice sector institutions. The more direct role of accountants in the management and operation of justice system institutions is in ensuring that financial resources are expended in conformity with the provisions of the Public Finance Management Act, related legislation, and accounting best practices. They contribute to the efficient allocation, utilization, and management of resources in justice sector institutions. You people ensure that there is prudent use of the limited resource that is finance. You manage the revenue collected by these institutions, and you manage the funds that are retained in trust for clients, such as, in my case, arrested and accused persons and court users. Specifically in regard to the judiciary, accountants inter alia process local and foreign payments, authority to incur expenditure disbursements, staff payments, management of taxes and payroll payments, deposit management, cash bail refunds, revenue and deposit surrenders from court stations. They prepare financial reports and process development payment vouchers. It is clear, I think it is clear that financial probity in justice sector institutions is an essential and vital requirement for an efficient and effective system of governance. Public funds are given and utilized by these institutions in trust. Trust is particularly critical for justice system actors as it builds confidence in those institutions. Public confidence that is vital to the exercise of judicial authority and the administration of justice. In addition to ensuring institutional adherence to the constitutional and statutory public finance requirements, finance probity guards against corruption and abuse of the justice system by the full raft of actors that include judges, judicial officers, judiciary staff, prosecutors, police officers, and probation officers. We at the judiciary are currently implementing the social transformation through access to justice blueprint that was launched by the Honorable the Chief Justice in September last year. And a key outcome of that vision is strengthening financial mechanisms that support the independence and integrity of the judiciary. The interventions under this strategic theme include operationalization of the Judiciary Fund, operationalization of an enterprise resource planning system to manage and improve how resources are utilized, optimizing absorption and utilization of the funds allocated to the judiciary, the timely settlement of financial obligations to ensure that litigants and service providers to the judiciary are optimally served, and to enhance audits towards ensuring that risk management, governance, and internal control processes are operating effectively. Accountants are therefore central to the achievement of this central pillar in the judiciary and the social transformation agenda generally. As drivers of accountability, the Call to Public Trust directs accountants to see beyond the narrow function of illustrating the use of resources presented through the financial statements, but look at accountability and use of public resources more comprehensively. There must be a value for money and a resource optimization function that accountants must honestly engage in, particularly in the public sector. Those of you well acquainted with working in the public sector will be most conversant with the often quoted phrases when questions are raised on public expenditure. Let me just remind us of a few of these. It is not your business to save the government money. Kwani it is your money? Hii pesa si ya mama yako. I am sure we have heard those things. And I came here to tell us, hii pesa ni ya mama yetu. And the only person who can guard against the misuse of this money, the key person, is listening to me right now, the accountant. The thrust of these statements is that government monies do not belong to anyone, and thus its proper or optimal utilization should not be anyone's concern. To my mind, nothing could be further from the truth, and it is a core professional responsibility of accountants to identify, call out, and put to task such improvident attitudes and practices. Accountants have demonstratively been able to remain vibrant in the justice system at large. Accountants are now able to compete with other professionals, such as lawyers, to bid and undertake due diligence for potential and existing investments. The unique position that accountants find themselves in is that they are usually in the middle of, if not the cause of successes or failures of governments and institutions, be they public or private. Financial integrity remains at the heart of any operations at the different levels of the justice sector players. One cannot, for instance, posit that the accountants could not foresee the financial crisis in the years 2007 to 2008, or locally, the struggle and collapse of institutions, especially public ones. I will not give examples. We all already know them. But the ramifications to the public at large, as you know, are usually enormous. Most families depend on these institutions, and they are left with shattered lives as a result of the financial difficulties associated with mismanagement, and largely, unfortunately, without recourse. The importance of public confidence in the justice system, in my mind, cannot be gainsaid. To a significant degree, the manner in which public resources are utilized directly impacts on the impression the public have on justice sector institutions. One cannot experience challenges and impropriety in, for example, the processing of refunds for cash bail or the processing of payments for services rendered in our justice institutions, and then be expected to deem the justice products that emerge therefrom to be fair, objective, and impartial, because the opposite is true. The one impacts the other. Your role as professionals in the justice system institution, therefore, directly impacts the dispensation of justice. The International Code of Ethics for Professional Accountants, to which all of you members of ISPAC subscribe, provides, I came to remind us of a few truths, provides that professional accountants shall be governed by fundamental principles of ethics that reflect the profession's recognition of its public interest responsibility. The fundamental principles that establish the standard of behavior expected of a professional accountant are integrity, objectivity, professional competence, due care, confidentiality, and professional behavior. These principles find statutory representation through Section 30 of the Accountants Act that contains more than 17 substantive provisions on professional misconduct. You are thus compelled to do the right thing constitutionally, statutorily, and professionally. Acquaint yourselves with Section 360 of the International Code of Ethics for professional accountants. It deals with responding to non-compliance with laws and regulations. And please don't tell me that you live in a country where obeying court orders is a problem. The provisions thereunder state, and I quote, a distinguishing mark of the accountancy profession is its acceptance of the responsibility to act in the public interest. When responding to non-compliance or suspected non-compliance, the objectives of the professional accountant are A, to comply with the principles of integrity and professional behavior. B, to alert management or, where appropriate, those charged with governance of the client to seek to enable them to rectify, remediate, or mitigate the consequences of the identified or suspected non-compliance, or deter the commission of the non-compliance where it has not yet occurred, and C, to take such further action as appropriate in the public interest. End of quote. This code of ethics requirement finds statutory expression in acts of parliament such as the Proceeds of Crime and Anti-Money Laundering Act number 9 of 2009 that obligates accounting professionals to report suspicious transactions in Kenya, whether in public practice or in business, together with their practices or employing organizations when preparing or carrying out transactions. You have the capacity and godly duty to do the right thing, and the capacity to stop the wrong things from being done, whether it is the misuse or misappropriation of funds and resources. Accountants in the just sector institutions can stop systemic waste and corruption, ensure accountability for such incidences, put in place systems to prevent their recurrence, thereby stopping them from ever happening again. Do not ignore or cover up impropriety. Do not ignore or cover up impropriety. Do not ignore or cover up impropriety. Do not cover up complaints and audit concerns for bribes or such other improper inducements. Where you find something is not or has not been done right, you must say it. Not only must you say it, but you must also do something about it. You must do something about it to get it corrected. You have a duty to follow up and find out if it has in fact been corrected, the loopholes addressed, and the matter duly reported for corrective action. It's the bare minimum required of you. You must whistleblow. You must write statements. You must report to relevant bodies such as the ESCC. That you must. In my last engagement with you, I was particularly interested and supportive of the Wapi Nduru initiative undertaken by yourselves in conjunction with Amnesty International in support of whistleblowers. In support of whistleblowers such as CPS Spencer Sankale, calling out corruption wherever it occurs. Such initiatives buttress the work of justice sector actors, such as the Witness Protection Agency, that provides special protection on behalf of the state to persons in possession of important information and who are facing potential risk or intimidation due to their cooperation with prosecution and other law enforcement agencies. So you must report. You just have got to report, because where there is threat, protection shall be availed. In addition to services rendered in addition to services rendered within and to justice sector institutions and your professional responsibilities thereto, accountants play a crucial role in the justice system as participants in the trial itself and in the trial process. Professional accountants, particularly those versed in forensic accounting, enable the undertaking of complex financial investigations. They are invaluable to successful prosecution of complex financial crimes, and close collaboration with such experts is highly desirable for investigators and prosecutors. Accountants may be involved in the prosecution chain as experts in various ways, including providing expert evidence and clarifying complex matters to the court. Certain claims, such as accounting malpractice, may require the opinion of an expert in the field to prove the occurrence of a breach of the standard of care in order to assist the investigator, the prosecutor, or the court in arriving at an appropriate decision, various conclusions, or indeed the judgment itself. Corruption, financial crimes, money laundering, transnational organized crimes are complex crimes. They often require significant expertise to correctly deter them and detect fraud. Apportioning culpability and tracing proceeds and the beneficiaries thereof is the task of accountants. These crimes have a wide range of corrosive effects on society, including undermining democracy itself. They foment violations of human rights, accelerating economic decline, eroding the quality of life, and allowing threats to human security to flourish. Further, they tend to affect the underprivileged disproportionately as they divert funds intended for public good and development. They undermine government's ability to provide basic services and thus increase inequality and injustice in society. The person who can stop this is, among others, the accountant. You must also keep as your true north that yours is a public interest profession. And thus accountants must play their part to keeping to our society safe and improving our socio-economic conditions. As gatekeepers to the financial system, professional accountants are the first line of defense to prevent the misuse and misappropriation of public funds and the movement, transfer, or transaction in these illicit funds. Your specialist knowledge in areas such as taxation, bankruptcy, and audit are invaluable in resolving disputes through arbitration and mediation. Our Constitution 2010 recognizes that the formal justice system does not enjoy primacy or place in the resolution of disputes and urges the justice system players to actively promote the use of alternative and informal mechanisms to resolve disputes. Accountants do play and should play and must continue to play a greater role in resolving disputes through these alternative dispute resolution mechanisms. Diverting disputes from litigation will reduce case backlog, expeditiously resolve matters, hence release significant amounts of money that would otherwise be held up in legal disputes back into the economy, and generally lead to more cohesive and mutually beneficial outcomes for disputing parties. This equates nicely to the important role played by professional institutions such as yours in strengthening the role of accountants in facilitating the justice system. I have always believed that low standards of professionalism equate to widespread corruption in our private, corporate, and public institutions. Nobody has discounted that belief of mine. This is true in all professions, including, relevant to us today, yourselves, the accounting profession. And as I have already explained, the accounting profession has a unique role in holding justice sector institutions accountable, as well as in assisting them in their respective accountability functions. ISPAC is critical in developing, improving, and maintaining a strong accounting profession that can help drive the positive change and transformation our justice sector institutions are seeking to achieve. ISPAC therefore must ensure that its membership is acutely aware of the important accountability role it plays in all sectors, including the justice sector, and is strictly compliant with all facets of the statutory and policy ethics provisions and duties governing your profession. This will provide assurance to those who access professional accountant services through these institutions, whilst at the same time strengthening their operational and governance frameworks. This in turn will boost public confidence in the justice system, the rule of law in the country, and the principles that are the very fabric of our constitutional democracy. And so, therefore, appreciating our professional importance in our roles in facilitating justice systems, we must together resolve to do one simple thing: to do the right thing, even if the skies must fall. We must resolve to detect and stop financial malpractices in all spheres, and more particularly in the justice system. We must refuse to be compromised. We must do the right thing. We must resist intimidation and coded or even direct threats to be punished if we do not play ball, or threats to lose our jobs. We must consolidate our resolve to do, yes, the right thing, and to protect and fight for those who get themselves into trouble for, yes, doing the damn right thing. I have no doubt whatsoever in my mind that we accountants and lawyers can and must do the right thing. And so I say, let's just do it. I thank you for listening to me. I wish you well in the remaining part of your seminar. I thank God for making this possible, and may He bless the accountants of Kenya. May He bless the judiciary of Kenya. May He bless us all here present, and may He bless the Republic of Kenya. Thank you very much. Before I sit down, the official bit is done. I am not the Deputy President of the Supreme Court. I am the Vice President of the Supreme Court.
Thank you so much, Vice President of the Supreme Court. Let's appreciate her once again for taking us through Lady Justice, and thank you so much for the correction. I think she has given us a very, very captivating speech and challenging, and she has touched on Section 30 of the Accountants Act, and where the heart of the accountant sits in terms of professional ethics. I think that's a very, we appreciate your challenge and thank you. Let's give the Accountants Club, not this one. No, not that one. We have the 5 factorial so that Vice President can understand that accountants have their own way of clubbing. 5 factorial, but 5 factorial bottom up. Yes, we have 2 types of 5 factorial. There is top down. What's the opposite of top down? Bottom up. Let's 1, 2, 3. Thank you so much. Vice President, that's our accountants club, and that's mathematical. It's not legal. Thank you so much. The Vice President of the Supreme Court, she will be taking a few questions, 3 questions, because she has an engagement. But once again, on behalf of the Council, Vice President, we really appreciate, and you've been with us. This is the 3rd time. Even last year, the Chief Justice herself was here. We really humbled, and this cooperation with the judiciary, I think, we'll continue with it. And I know in a special way, we also trained the judiciary in a special training. And we appreciate and thank you so much and greatly honored. So let's take 3 questions. Then over to Flamingo. We start from Flamingo. If you are hearing me.
Yes, Chair, we can hear you very well.
Thank you so much. The floor is yours. We can take 2 questions from there, and then you come back to us, or 3, and then we'll do 3 here, and then we wind up. Thank you so much, CEO.
There's a question here.
My name is Pierre Lumanyi from Parliamentary Service Commission. My question to Vice President of the Supreme Court, Lady Justice Mwilu, is in regards to emerging jurisprudence on the right of access to information. In accountants profession, we treat peer review seriously to enhance professional standards. Assuming a case in time, the judiciary could still subject, in regards to the petition number 43 of 2012, Farm Care Limited versus Public Procurement and Administration Review Board and another, to a peer review. Will the court still come out on the same pronouncement in view of section 33 and 27 of the Constitution? And was that a pronouncement of the court meant to attract investors or scare away investors? Thank you.
Another question.
Good morning, everyone. My name is CPA Alex Kibugi from Kenya Broadcasting Corporation, your true sports partner. And mine is not really a question, but the Deputy CJ has really emphasized on accountants to do the right thing. And even if the sky will come down, what would have wished to hear from her as the Deputy CJ is the Vice Chief Justice, is the commitment from the judiciary that if we, the accountant, do the right thing, and where the threats comes to be a reality, because the threats are there, and it is normal to fear because we are humans. If you are threatened that you lose your job, we want to hear the commitment from the judiciary that you will stand with us and justice will be served if we go to the labor courts for dismissals and the threats that may have, the reprisals that may have been passed to us because of doing the right thing as accountants. God bless you.
One more question. I think I'll take it back to you, Sarova.
Okay, thank you so much, Madam Vice President. You can have the honor of responding to the 2 questions.
Access to information is a right under Article 33, I think, of the Constitution. And Article 33 falls in Chapter 4 of the Constitution. My brother there must not expect me to say whether or not the judgment we gave was right or wrong, because all judgments are presumed right at the time they are delivered. But the Supreme Court sits in a unique position in that should the Supreme Court ever be shown that the Supreme Court did not consider the right, did not take into consideration the right aspects of a particular case, the Supreme Court is the one court that has power to depart from its own decisions. But before the Supreme Court can depart from its decisions, which are always considered, I've just said that all judgments are considered right as at the time of delivery. The Supreme Court must be shown where it went wrong. We do not review judgments for the sake of reviewing them. Did we do the judgment so as to encourage investors to come here or to go away? The Supreme Court, as the judiciary generally, is required to act in the best interest of the country. And the best interest of the country cannot be that we scare away investors or indeed take part in violations and breaches of our rights as given to us by the Constitution. Let me just say this. The rights given to us in the Constitution are absolute to the extent that they do not step on other people's rights. There are a few of them that you cannot derogate from, but that's not the question today. We, the judiciary in general, the Supreme Court in particular, act in public interest. We are unfortunately not invaluable, although I do not know anything we have done wrongly, but if there may be, you bring it to the attention of the court through an application, and a review would be done, and we depart from what you consider to be not an appropriate determination. But I'll conclude that particular issue by saying all cases are determined on the facts placed before the court. The court does not go searching for particulars. It is given a set of facts, applies the law to it, the evidence received, and then makes a determination. Bwana Kibugi, you want a commitment from the judiciary that we will also do the right thing. I think that commitment goes without asking for it. You see, our commitment is such that it is prescribed by the law. It is prescribed by the law in saying, when you bring any case to court, you bring your facts of that case, there is sufficient evidence, then the court must arrive at only one conclusion, which is to uphold the facts as given, applying the right law. Now, when you stand for what is right and refuse to be used in doing the wrong thing, and you're terminated. There is a court in Nairobi, which is now across the country, called the Employment and Labor Relations Court. the results I have on my desk is that that court is really not, facts and everything notwithstanding, it is a people-oriented court. That court has reinstated so many people back to work that employers have themselves started asking us, are you a court for employees? Now, we are not a court for employees or a court for employers. We are a court for both. I have said it is the facts that lead to a proper determination of the case. I'll conclude that aspect by saying you can have a very good case and lose it. You can have a very good case and lose it if you do not package your prayers properly. You must have your facts right. That's why we are practicing advocates. They must be presented correctly to the court because the court never goes. It's not allowed by law to go behind the case that is placed before it. So bring good cases. You have my commitment, that of the Honorable the Chief Justice, that of all the judges and the magistrates, that we shall do the right thing. And let me add here, because I live in this country, when we do not do the right thing, and you know we didn't do the right thing because we were compromised, and you know, in fact, that we were compromised, get the evidence, and do what I said in my earlier speech, report. Report. Start by reporting to me, to anyone. Report to the authorities. Go to the police, go to ESCC. Kibugi, I'm not saying that it's easy to do the right thing, but I'm saying it is a must to do the right thing. That's why we are professionals. That's why we are different from other people. And when our rights are violated, just fight. Do the right thing.
Thank you so much, Vice President of the Supreme Court. We can have another set of 2 questions from the audience here. And then Wakazi, you'll be ready for another set, the last set of 2 questions from Imenti. So let's have 2 questions from here. I can see one here. Let's have the microphone there, next to the cameras. And then who is there? Anybody from this side with a question? We don't have? Yes, here, those 2 questions. Here. You say your name so that it's easier to track.
Thank you so much. I'm called CPA Philip Achieng from the National Treasury Internal Audit Department. My question to Madam DCJ, I'm just interested in knowing, because over the years, we've witnessed a lot of accountability issues arising from audit reports, especially as far as management of public resources is concerned. I'm only interested in knowing what role judiciary is playing to help address some of these challenges, or is judiciary waiting for these cases to be brought to them and take maybe a reactive measure? What role do they play to address these matters to ensure they don't occur? And in connection with that, I would also like to know whether there are a working relationship between the National Treasury and the judiciary. What are the linkages as far as operations and as far as management of public resources is concerned? Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Deko Mohammed. I'm from Kisumu County. My question for you, Madam Vice President of the Supreme Court of Kenya, before I ask my question, I would like to give an example scenario. Let's say if you are a lawyer and you lose your case, the person who will be affected will be maybe one person. The same case for a doctor. if you do a mistake, maybe we lose one life. For an engineer, if there's a building, maybe there will 100 or 50, depending on the people who are there. But politicians, they're in control of everybody. And the court has declared that it is unconstitutional for a governor to have a degree. So, Madam Vice President, I thought politicians have to be the most educated people because their multiplier effect is too large. It is affecting millions of people. For our case as youth, when we are applying for a job, we are told a degree, a professional course, then experience. So where do you get the experience if you are not being given a chance as a youth? So the same case will apply to a politician. I know you can argue that this is a politician, not a professional job, but the effect he can cause or she is too many. So at least we need to propose that, we need to have an opposed motion to affect that so that we can have people who understand what is monetary policy and fiscal policy and how do they affect our national income. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think that was, you want to ask a question? This is the last one? Then we go to Imenti.
My name is CPA Dalton Mwagogo, and I'm the chair ISPAC Coast Branch. Madam DCJ, my question is on your budget. I know the new regime has given you additional budget of around 3 billion, and I think that's a good thing. I don't know what other prospects we are going to see going forward with the judiciary with such kind of money. You know that money is scarce. The CS for Education just said the other day that the education sector, especially the universities, will not be funded. I happen to be in that sector. So while we are crying, you people, you are enjoying. So we hope to see good things. But over and above that, my biggest question also, again, in previous regime, you have not been getting good funding. So are you going to bed with the new regime with that kind of money, additional of 3 billion to your budget? Thank you.
Okay. I don't know if Mwakasi, you are ready. For the interest of time, we can have those 2 questions on Imenti. You read them, then the Vice President will be able to take note and respond.
Right, thank you so much indeed. We have 2 questions here. This is CPA John Kamiti. Says, is the justice system in Kenya sensitive and fair to all? How do you explain a chicken thief handed 30 years in jail, while a thief of millions of public funds gets 5 years? Kindly unpack this scenario, as it is hard to understand. A final comment here, of course a comment, very good presentation, thank you DCJ Mwilu. A final question here. What is the role of the judiciary in ensuring that ISPAC produces key expert witnesses in the courts of law who are acquainted with the process? Back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you so much for those questions. And now I invite the Vice President to respond.
Sorry, Makazi, I did not hear the last question.
The last question, what is the role of the judiciary in ensuring that ISPAC produces key expert witnesses in the courts of law who are acquainted with the process?
Okay. Okay, thanks. Thank you. Now, Rachel, the role of the judiciary in a number of things. Let me say this. The law in this country and certain principles remain with the separation of powers and functions. The judiciary, yes, indeed, it sits and waits for cases because that is the role of the judiciary. We do not go looking for cases. We can't. We are told to determine cases as they are brought. We cannot do cases for you. In fact, one of the principles is that the judiciary cannot descend into the arena of litigation. We cannot take sides with either party. It is your case, but more importantly, it is the law. And by the way, the first two questions have the same answer. If Parliament has not made law that guides certain aspects of life, the judiciary can do very little beyond lack of law. But what it can do, and it has continuously done, is to recommend in judgments that we would have gone this way if the position was clear in law. But the position is not clear because there is no law that guards or covers this particular aspect. And therefore, we recommend that the legislature looks into enacting a law that takes care of this particular incident and incidences of a similar nature. How does the judiciary relate with the National Treasury? The judiciary relates with the National Treasury as any other public organ does. Now, the budget as we know it is done by Parliament, not the National Treasury. This is, in fact, thank you very much for that question. Because Treasury sometimes acts as though they are the determinants of budget. They are not. Their role is to distribute the monies as already done by Parliament. That budget committee of Parliament is the one that determines that public bodies will take the following from the consolidated fund. And the Treasury is supposed to just share out that money. Now, the problem that arises is that the Treasury does not have enough money to go around. And therefore, although we will be given, for instance, $1 billion in respect of a certain item, we may get that $1 billion in tranches and not get it on the same day, so that planning becomes difficult. It's like hand-to-mouth situation. So everybody has their role to play. The Treasury should and must obey what Parliament says as to the budgeting process. We have no special relationship with the Treasury. As a matter of fact, we've had all manner of problems getting the little that is allocated to us from Parliament, and the reason has been that there's just not enough money in the economy. Mohammed, politicians have a bigger multiplier effect than the rest of us professionals. And yet, a case came to court and we determined that governors need not have degrees. First, I do not know whether that case was appealed. And in the event that there's an appeal on it, there's something called sub judice, and therefore I cannot go into the merits of the case. But if I were to just give a casual comment, it's that we are as good as the politicians we get, degree or no degree. Let us select wisely. But in the event that that case is not on appeal, so what is the law? Is there a law that says that a governor must have a degree? Because if there is any such law, I'm not aware of it right now, if there is any such law, then the law has to be obeyed as is written. See, the problem we have around here and particularly with the disobedience of court orders, is that we must first accept the situation as it is. We must obey the law as written and only challenge it in the legal process by appeal. Let me restrain myself from the multiplier effect. Let me restrain myself from whether or not they understand the physical and monetary policies, and whether therefore they represent us effectively in Parliament and in the counties. And just say this: we, the people of Kenya, should learn and must learn to elect good people. If you point me to the law, I think you see where I'm going. I will give you a direct answer as to whether governors should have a degree or not. But there is such a thing as discrimination. There is such a thing, positive or negative. There is such a thing as applying the law equally to similar circumstances. And what is the law? Is the law the statute or a regulations law? Collectively, we must be appropriately guided, because we cannot say one thing. For instance, we cannot say some governors who are elected without holding degrees can work, while we say, oh, no, but all governors must have degrees. Doing the best I can in the circumstances of this particular case, that's all I can say. The judiciary budget. My brother, let me tell you something. Internationally, all judiciaries have a standard percentage of budget. Most of them get 2.5, some get 3. But of course, you have to see and appreciate that the budget must be within the country's economy. But what is important is that an institution as important as the judiciary, no less an arm of government, ought to have a fixed budget. We've been getting less than 1%. I've just said internationally, the budget is like 2.53%. How will we use the 3B that we have been promised? By the way, it hasn't come yet, but when it does come, we shall use it prudently, as we have done with all other monies. I do not know of a case where the judiciary has been... We have our weaknesses as society, but I think we have largely used our budget very well. In fact, that's why the Auditor General has not found fault with us in serious issues. I am not saying the minor issues are not important. They are all important, but we are the people who we state what the law is, we give you judgment, and we must not be the people who say the situation is this and then do the opposite. So we'll use the budget properly. Are we in bed with the new regime? The new administration has been around for about 2 months, or going to 2 months. And I will only say this. Any judiciary anywhere that goes to bed with an administration that is doing the wrong thing should not be in existence. Whatever going to bed with means. But I'll say this, and I said it last week. The 3 arms of government are independent, but let me tell you, they are interdependent on each other. the legislature will make law, the judiciary will interpret those laws, and the executive will enforce. The legislature will set budget. That's their role. And so the judiciary depends on the legislature to give us an allocation of the country's monies that is enough to run our business for a year. And we run the business of justice. Now, if we are not enabled, if we cannot talk to Parliament, if we can't talk to the National Treasury, and do so within the confines of the law and the Constitution, that we don't go outside that, we just could not exist. So if going to bed with an administration means that we will talk to each other, then yes, it must be done. It is what the Constitution says it must be done. And if this judiciary, the current judiciary, will talk to the current administration and will talk to Parliament, it will not be doing anything new. That is what has been done all the time because it must be done. Now, where the red line is drawn is where, and God forbid that it should happen, that the administration or indeed anybody out there should tell us, the judiciary, how to determine cases. There, the red line is drawn, and should you find anyone dictating to us what to do, and we do as dictated, and the evidence is clear, we have no business being in the judiciary. In fact, anyone who dictates the judiciary to do certain things that are outside the law has no business sitting where they are sitting. The justice system, is it sensitive to all? Some people are convicted and sent to jail for 1 week, others for 5 years, others. Now listen, you blame the judiciary for too much. Some of these things are beyond our control. We obey the damn law. If the law says a chicken thief, once convicted, is liable to 7 years, that is what we will give. If the law says a bank robber is liable to death, as I know it is under section 292, 292.2 of the Penal Code, that's what we will do. The public blames the judiciary for obeying the law. I think that ought to be corrected. Now, if somebody blames the judiciary for giving the right judgment, then that blame is misplaced. But if the judiciary gives a sentence not known to law, then the judiciary is to blame. In fact, let me reframe your question. Although I said the judiciary does not descend to the arena of litigation, I thought you would have asked me why certain cases move faster than others. Because that we are in control of, because we are in charge of the court when we are sitting. Part of the blame is ours if cases are dragging for too long, because judicial officers, starting from the magistrate to the Chief Justice, are in control of the business of the court at the time they are hearing cases. But we have partners called advocates who are trained in advocacy. They know their clients' needs. They also can delay cases. Personally, I have never blamed lawyers for delaying cases. I blame us for delaying cases by not putting our foot down and saying, this case will go on. I'm giving you 2 hours to collect whatever it is you have to get back to court at 2 o'clock, and I will proceed. But there are cases which you must appreciate that have the kind of evidence, as I was talking about earlier, expert evidence, documents are, I don't know how many heaps, and those are of necessity slow-moving cases. But the speed of a case is determined by its nature, by a diligent processing of the case, both from the bench and from the bar. And please keep bringing to our attention these things to improve us. It's called feedback. But is the justice system sensitive? The answer is yes. And the answer is yes because there's a set law. You cannot give a punishment that is not in the books. Now, the role of the judiciary in ISPAC in producing expert evidence. In answer to that question and to the two earlier questions, let me say this. Unfortunately, maybe not unfortunately, the law is like this. If it's a criminal case, the police investigate. The prosecutor comes to prosecute the case in court, and the judge, the judiciary, the magistrate, receives that evidence and then assesses it. That part is ours. So and what's our role in assisting experts to give evidence? It is just what I said. Unfortunately, we cannot do the preparation for you. You have to remain professional. You must do what I always call doing the right thing. You do the right thing. You detect a fraud, report it, research on it, and give evidence on it. Now, once you have given evidence yourselves, the support we will give you is that that cogent evidence that you have given us, we will uphold, unless, of course, it is countered by fellow expert evidence. So our role in AWARD is to assess appropriately the judgment you give us, the evidence you give us in our judgment, and where we fail to do that, then come for your pound of flesh. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vice President. Thank you so much for your responses. We now come to the end. Let's give a 5 factorial, bottom up once again. This week is going to be bottom up. Let's start once again. Thank you so much. I now request you to be upstanding and request Mwakasi we play the national anthem.
Thank you so much indeed. Flamingo, let us be upstanding for the Kenya National Anthem and the East African Community Anthem. Ladies and
Thank you
gentlemen.
so much. You may be seated. I'll request the council members to join me as we go out together with the Deputy Chief Justice for a group photo. Join us outside. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. And I wish you very fruitful discussions in the next 4 days. Thank you.
I'd kindly request all of us to remain seated so that we can allow our chief guest to leave. Once again, a big round of applause. The Honorable Lady Justice Asante Sana. Do the right thing. We must refuse to be compromised. We must consolidate our resolve to do the right thing. Asante Sana, very articulate. We celebrate you for your professionalism, your excellence, and patriotism. We have the capacity and godly duty to do the right thing. All of us, let us please remain seated, remain seated, remain seated.